Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Paul Worcester. Thanks for being on the show, Paul.
Thank you so much for having me, Whitney. Excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your story, Paul. Just reading through your bio, I was like, wow, okay, this you've done a lot and you've made a lot happen, and as a family as well, and just looking forward to hearing that. And but as a listener, in case you haven't heard of Paul before, I want to tell you a little about him, and then he can elaborate better than I. But he grew up in lower middle class in Oregon, and after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, he borrowed his parents' life savings of $200,000 and went into business with his two younger brothers and father, and founded Worcester Investment. They partnered with over 80 investors to syndicate over 4,000 multifamily units worth $400 million in Kansas City and have over 140 employees. He became frustrated and fed up at traditional property management, so he founded Simplifyy with $2 million of his own money. Am I saying that right, Paul?
That's right.
Simplifyy. And Simplifyy helps multifamily owners boost profits by leveraging technology to bundle costs. So looking forward to hearing about that as well, Paul. Give us a little more of that background, though. I know the listeners are wondering, oh, wait a minute, you took $200,000 of the family's life savings. And I mean, that's obviously a big risk, right? People would say that as a big risk, but look at you now, aren't you? Yeah, it's an amazing story. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, I would never advise someone to do exactly what we did. I was 24. My brothers were a little bit younger than I. We grew up lower middle class. My dad was a pastor. Mom was a third grade school teacher. And we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it just changed our perspective of money and being a business owner, entrepreneur completely. We didn't have any perspective other than it was someone else. And for the first time, it was like, oh, I guess we could do it. He explains it so simply. And so we had a series of family meetings, and we decided to go into business together and start buying small multifamily properties. And so we did that. My dad didn't have any money, so he put a second mortgage on his home, and that's where he got the $200,000. He gave it to us, and my two younger brothers and my father went into business. We bought our first property in Salem, Oregon, a fourplex. It was actually part of 16 units. And the guy we bought them from moved to Kansas City. So I went and visited him immediately, and we never left. So we really grew our business in Kansas City.
Wow. So the $200,000 came from a second mortgage. And you said you wouldn't advise doing this, but you all have made it happen. And I just congratulations by first and foremost. It's incredible. But as a family, you all committed to this, what you learned in Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, and that book obviously is very basic. It doesn't go into how to buy multifamily, but sure. But the truth is there, right? We wanted to buy assets that at the end of the day produce some cash flow after paying the bills. And that principle is what we've been doing for the last 13 years. We started buying small multifamily properties, and then we bought 40 of those, 2007 through 9. And then we begin, per your show, we begin formally, well, the first ones were not formal syndications, but then we learned what that actually was legally and so forth. And we started syndicating large multifamily properties in the greater Kansas City area.
Wow. So that seller, though, the first seller was from Kansas City, or he moved there, and then you went to visit, and then you all started operating there as well?
Yeah, our only experience was what we saw in our backyard, which was Eugene, Oregon, in that area. And this was 2006, and it was the market had not crashed, and so this was pricing. I could not find stuff that made sense. So when we looked at Kansas City, a Midwest market, property made a lot more sense. You could buy 2-3 times as much real estate and the rents might be, 15 to 25% less. And so it was much easier to find, cash flowing properties, which is what we were interested in. We because we read Rich Dad Poor Dad from the very beginning, we were not in a mindset of we're going to buy something and flip it and make a chunk of money. We wanted to buy something that intrinsically, if we held it forever, Warren Buffett talks about that. If you had to keep it forever, it's going to month by month produce some cash flow.
Okay. So tell me I guess the first things you did though, moving from single family into multifamily, what helped you make that transition?
Well, we kind of jumped to multifamily immediately. We bought a handful of small single families, but it was always a mindset of rental cash flow, and we just thought more is better. So if you have more units, it was we thought we could buy a duplex easier than you could buy two single families, right? And a fourplex easier than you could buy two duplexes. And so we just kind of, for the first 2 years, we bought basically 1 to 8 unit properties. And then in 2009, it was a huge paradigm shift in our world. We bought a 60 unit property in a submarket of Kansas City, and it was producing almost immediately as much cash flow as our approximately 120 units were the entire previous 2 years. And it didn't actually take that much more work to buy a 60 unit than it did like an 8 unit. It was more, but not pro rata more, not 8 times more than an 8 unit.
Isn't it such a mindset shift though? It's hard to get that across to somebody that's been set in buying, say, single family for a long time, and you're like, no, you can make it happen. I'm glad that you just expressed that. And so let's elaborate a little bit, or you elaborate on just this process of getting even into the syndication business, and that mindset shift.
Yeah, when we started, we didn't know what that word was. We didn't have any money still. So for 2-3 years, we were buying property. We were cash poor though. So we didn't have, a big credit, a bunch of income from a W-2 job that we could show. So we were incredibly fortunate to have some relationships that we built early on. And then frankly, the deals we were able to procure, this is the first thing I would say to anyone, is you've got to find a worthy deal. Nothing else works. You can be good at all the other stuff, but if you find a really, really, really excellent deal at a discount to, market value, there's some, built-in, value add you can perform, or ideally even day one, it's that way, then everything else will fall into place. There's plenty of money out there for those kinds of deals. So, we found some people that actually signed on personal recourse, loans for us with small banks, which is incredibly fortunate, because we couldn't have done that ourselves. And so it took us really years to be able to get up a net worth and a bio to sign as a KP on Fannie Freddie loans on our own. But early days, we just had investors, and the deal, sold itself. It was such a phenomenal deal. The second deal we bought was a 96 unit that we still own to this very day. We bought it in 2009 for $1.4 million, and we have a loan on it today, I think, for $5 million. And it's produced, cash flow every year since then. It's been such an amazing. We bought it for $15 a door. It's worth, maybe 60 to 70 a door today. Just been a wonderful deal. And if you have those, then everything else will fall into place.
Nice. Well, there's so many things we could talk about, but I know your expertise, one of your superpowers is really adding NOI, to multifamily properties. And I wanted us to really jump in there and really allow you to teach us some things, right? And us to even talk about Simplifyy a little bit and what that does. But let's jump in a little bit on how, you all have added value or added, NOI to your multifamily properties, ultimately adding value as well. But, do you have maybe an example or maybe a property we could talk about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the origins of how this came about. So we built a management company that was at one time 140 people managing about 3,000 units, including some construction. And we had done that always self-managed, and we were about average. And year after year after year, we were doing property management. And I kept saying there ought to be a better way. We tried little things here and there to improve, but by and large, the way it's always been just swallowed up any kind of small iterative innovations. And that's really the thesis of why we started Simplifyy, is because this industry is just so antiquated and broken that someone needs to step in and create a better way. And we just, I finally said, I'm going to do it because there wasn't anyone else doing it. So Simplifyy is transforming multifamily property management for really the first time ever, in the last 100 years. I mean, there's really two sides. There's property management, which is just the people. And then there's these Silicon Valley, tech companies that are coming up. And, there's a million of them and they come and go day by day, but they're built to work with the property management company. And it's this big fragmented mess that at the end of the day doesn't really add true value to the end owner. My NOI as an owner is not really going up due to the, innovation, small little innovation. You'll have one company will say, I'll help you with your, lease payment processing. Another pops up, I'll help you with your utility management, or I'll help you with this or this or this, but they all don't work together. There's enormous waste in the integrations. So what Simplifyy did is we're the first company to go to market and say, we're a tech company first. So we are a tech company. We've built over $2 million of tech already, but we replace the property manager. So it's the first to ever do that in this space. And the way we do it, the way we boost the owner's ultimate NOI is it's not rocket science. We take, like any industry, you say, where's the waste, right? In the industry, where's the waste and opportunity? And we go and we innovate. We add technology to help bring down costs. So I'll give one example. Let's take it how leasing occurs in the multifamily industry. Okay, so depending on the study and the place of the industry and the whether it's an A, B, or C property and what part of the country you're in, it's $500 to $1,500 every time a lease occurs. Right, your marketing costs, your payroll, all those kinds of things. Every time it's just built in. Well, of course that's what it is, right? You got to have a leasing agent to show someone where the kitchen is. And you got to show them during the hours of 8 to 5, of course. Well, that's a bunch of baloney. And in fact, in single family, it's been going on for a decade that self-touring has been going on. And you don't need a person. And so especially in light of what we're going through right now, Whitney, in the COVID-19 world, what we do at Simplifyy is we've set up smart locks, and it integrates, with a smartphone. We can show 24/7. This has been going on in single family for a long time. And our cost every time a lease occurs is somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $100 to our company. So there's an enormous spread. And we do the same thing in accounting. We have artificial intelligence that replaces a huge percentage of the payroll that sits on property or at a headquarters somewhere and just does data entry. And so we've come in and we reduce those, what we call in the industry, the variable or controllable costs. We bring them down and we fix them into a monthly subscription. And that's how we add value.
Wow. Okay. So in that, how much will that replace the current management team, or will it replace them completely? Or is it like, here's a few things that we can automate to lower the expense on?
Yeah. So I originally tried to blend what we were doing with traditional property management. And it was, we'll help you with leasing and it just didn't work. It's oil and water. And so even the very definitions of the people that we have, like their titles and how they perform work, is different than traditional property management. So the only way to make it work is to start fresh, start all over. And we come in and we just literally replace property management. We would work with property management if we could, but they can't. Here's the analogy. It would be as if Uber and Lyft, 10 years ago, went to all the taxi cab companies and they said, hey, we want to try and work with you and integrate with. It'd be like, different language. It's like, what do you even, they don't even understand. And that's the way it is with us talking to property management companies. They throw people at the problem. Oh, there's a new problem, hire another person. Just hire another person. And the problem is, as the property management company, and we had one, we don't feel the pain, right? What do? I get my, 3.5% to 6%, and I pass it all on to the owner. The owner feels that pain. I don't feel it. So consequently, I have a slide that I can show, but you take an industry like ride sharing, there's an 84x delta in tech innovation investment. So 3 cents of every dollar in property management is invested in technology, essentially nothing. All right. In ride sharing, in the ride sharing industry, it's $2.50.
Wow.
It's an 84x delta. And that's, you take one that, so I think in the next 5 years, the way that we talk about and look at multifamily, the flow of money and workflow will not look nothing like it does in about 5 years, within about 5 years.
Okay. So then if you're using something like Simplifyy, then you're technically self-managing, you're managing those processes.
We help an owner. If an owner comes in and they say, I'm dissatisfied with my property management, I think there's waste, I think there's opportunity to raise NOI, we are a good fit to come in and we help you self-manage. We offer software and the service for it. So we go in with, our team covers all of the what would be controllable costs, the payroll. We replace your payroll on the office side, your admin and IT, your marketing and advertising, any sort of a management fee. We bundle it into one fixed cost, and then all the other things that, maintenance, we just facilitate. No different than a property management company would.
Okay. So we're going to hire the maintenance. We're going to hire, I mean, I assume you still have to have somebody on site.
Yeah, we have people on site every day, and it's just a different mindset. So here's the new mindset. The idea that I need to go to my clubhouse to get any sort of a question answered. I'm a renter or I'm a prospect going to a 250 unit apartment community, home community, okay? And I want to lease, or I want to get help with paying my rent. I want to submit a work order. The old mindset is I've got to go to, Joe or Fran in the office to get anything done. That's bogus. In fact, what we found, the renters far prefer, if I can have 24/7 access, I can text or call, and within the second, I'm on the phone or texting with a person to help me with my problem. They actually prefer that to waiting in line between the hours of 8 to 5. And frankly, a lot of times you go in there, they're gone. Maybe they're at the restroom, they're on a lunch break, or there's a line of 3 people and I don't have time to sit and wait around. So yes, we're there on site every day. We're doing work orders. We're checking on the landscaping. We're doing resident surveys, resident parties. Literally today, we press pause on those with the coronavirus, but we're there to love on our neighbors. We're there to literally add value in their life. That is one of the dirty secrets in our industry, is that we think, we throw people on property and they're really looking out for my asset and really checking in on my renters. We know that's not true. In fact, they sit in an office and it's not their fault. They have so much work. They're buried up to their eyeballs in work that when someone comes in and says, hey, I think I see something going on. There's a work order that needs to happen on the clubhouse, or I need help paying my rent. You're a bother to me because I got work to do. And that's the problem, is that we don't use technology. That's where the root problem is.
So how many employees on average, whether you want to say 100, 200 unit property, are we going to have if we're using a system like this?
Well, when you say we do replace the property management. So if you're an owner, it'd be no different than you say, I call, my direct contact, my asset manager or the owner of the property management company, and anything I need, to get done or ask questions, I go through them. No different would be you'd come to Simplifyy. So we have our own W-2 employees that do everything from maintenance to leasing to accounting. We do it all. Do it. Yeah, there is literally no extra work. And in fact, there's a lot less work. We are rolling out the first to market an owner app that will take all of the horrible antiquated P&Ls and balance sheet, and budget to variance that comes in a PDF and is 45 days old by the time you get it. Imagine having everything in real time going on at your property, including financials, but not limited to financials. Every time there's a lease, a work order, delinquency, you could tap that on your phone with an app. It'll reduce a lot of the needs to come to my property management company. The reality is the average property management company doesn't know what's going on at their property. So certainly an owner doesn't know what's going on at the property. With data is the key. If you can have good actionable data to share, then you can get somewhere.
Wow. Well, tell me some things that influenced you in developing something this sophisticated and this helpful.
Well, it grew out of just dissatisfaction with the industry. It was banging my head against the wall and trying to improve it. And the problem, it'd be like this again, going back to analogy of the taxi cab. If you built a technique or a feature for the taxi cabs of 10 years ago, let's say you built a new screen that took credit cards and you put advertising in there, you built some cool little thing that sat in the taxi cab, you added value to the industry, right? You made it a little bit better. But by and large, you're gone today. The Uber Lyfts of the world have completely made you irrelevant. That's right. What had to happen and what has to happen in the multifamily property management industry. We've got too many people thinking of, I'm going to plug in, I'm going to do some little thing here and there. And so someone, it's us, because no one else was doing it, has to step up and say, we'll be the guys to reinvent the industry.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome, Paul. Go ahead.
And ultimately, it's the owners and the renters and the employees that benefit. So everyone in that ecosystem is better off with Simplifyy. Now, if you don't want to use Simplifyy, so we'll save you money or boost your NOI, same difference if we take over a property. But folks that don't want to do that, they can self-manage. They can do their own. They can take from different technologies off the shelf, and they can do what we're doing. It just takes some time, and I'm happy to share pieces about, like, you can go out and you can 24/7 self-tour today. Ask your property management company to do that. Good luck. They're not set up to do that.
Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit before we have to move to a few final questions?
Well, you can go and there's Vivint, there's Rently, there's Smart Rent, and a number of other emerging smart home companies. You have to be able to integrate with the communication and take that all, but you can show your units. You just got to leverage software. You can lease 24/7. They apply, they tour. We even have folks that are renting without touring. So about 1 in 10 of our leases are actually occurring without even a physical tour. You can do that. You can pull them together. Now, the hard part is to make it all work in one ecosystem together. That's why Simplifyy was built, is because you can go out and you can get software to help you self-tour. You can get software to help you, conduct, maintenance work orders and feed it in a loop. But making it all work together, that is the big challenge.
Wow, that's really interesting, Paul. I'm looking forward to doing some research on it myself. What is the normal timeline of getting started with something like that?
Yeah, it's no different than offboarding or onboarding your property management company. It's whatever your contract says that you need to give them notice, and we get all the basic information. Your rent roll, your bank information. We help you manage your property no different than if you self-manage today. Your workload, if you're an owner and you have your own management company like we did, self-managing, or you use third party. Really, the difference is that there's no difference. You come with Simplifyy. We will, the very next month, your NOI will go up. We won't sign you up unless we can add NOI to you the very next month.
Is there a normal percentage you see go up or decrease in expenses or anything like that?
Percentages are hard because it depends on the rent.
Sure.
But we're able to typically add $25 to $50 per unit per month or more in bottom line NOI. So you take a 100-unit property, at 50, that'd be, $60,000 a year in NOI. That might be, I think that's about 800,000 if you cap that at a 7 cap of added value to that property. And the reality is, Whitney, is that this is what I guess a big takeaway for your listeners, that the encouraging part that I have to share is that the way I look at it, if you own multifamily today, or you're going in to buy multifamily right now, I think pricing is dropping. It's a great time to buy. There's built-in, pent-up, I'll call it secret, undiscovered, operating profit waiting to be released. All you have to do is you have to apply technology for the first time, And what I used for years as the industry standard, the rules of thumb, all those are going to get better with technology. So the great news is, if you are one of the early adopters of this, you can actually, for the very first time in our industry, think about this. If you go in and you say, well, I'm going to run this property a lot better than my competitor, the first thought is, what are you going to do? You're going to hire cheaper, folks, and they're going to, in the long term, you're going to pay for that, right? There was really no realistic way to add remarkable NOI, top line, bottom line to your property, right? Because we all did the same things. Property management is property management. It's all the same. Well, not any longer. Today, for the first time, you can actually be doing things very differently than your competitor across the street, and you can have a pretty big bottom line advantage.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more myself. And Paul, and just a few final questions, but I wanted to ask you too, because we talked about it briefly before we started recording, is the book behind you, The Exponential Organizations?
Yeah, this is a fantastic book. It's not focused on real estate. I've read it, I think, 5 or 6 times, highly recommend it. It's on Audible, a great, excuse me, got my earphones coming out, a great read. Or listen on Audible, but it's really a study of the fastest modern companies in growth, and the techniques and technologies that they've used, like an Airbnb and all these modern companies that are growing, Uber, and how they've completely upended a industry. And what it is, it takes them and says, well, what are the commonalities? What can we learn from a company that disrupted an industry, and how can I apply it in my industry? So what we did is, I like to learn from others, and wherever I can, I don't like to reinvent things. And so that book, we've taken a lot of the principles in that book, and we're just applying it in multifamily property management for the very first time. The principles are really the same, but no one's done it in our industry yet.
Paul, what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Oh, I think humility and a willingness to learn and say, I don't have the answers. But in a group, if you get around wise, good people, then I think you can figure out about anything.
And how do you like to give back?
Oh, we give back. So at Simplifyy, we've partnered with a transitional housing 501c3. So for every 100 units we take on, we're able to put a family of 4 take them from homelessness through a 90-day program and get them back on their feet with financial literacy training, and super, super passionate about that. Wow.
Well, appreciate you sharing that, Paul. Appreciate you giving back in that way as well. It's really neat to hear stories like that. And I think, learning about something like Simplifyy today and what you're doing is kind of like hearing about syndication for the first time. It's like, is that really possible? Or like opening our eyes to this like new thing, And so I don't have any doubt that in, not too many years, we're all going to be moving that direction. So grateful for your time and just sharing your work and what you all are doing. But tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you and learn more about Simplifyy.
Yeah, go to our website. It's great information. It's Simplifyy with an extra y.com. And we'd love to, help you if we can. If you own or are acquiring large multifamily in this country, we can help you.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.